Hi, I'm Casper. I'm a test expert here at Incida, and in today's video we're going to go through the basics of variables. Now, variables is a smart way to make your tests more advanced and more flexible, so you can do tests such as loops with different outputs, create agile processing, and much more. But let's just dive right into it. We're going to create a new project, and in this project we can go here to the left and click variables. Now in variables we can start by creating a new variable. I'm probably gonna say variables a bunch of times in this video, but just stick with it. So our variable has a name. We can call it, let's say, output. It has a default value. The default value is what it's going to start with at the test beginning. Let's say 1. And current value is the current value at any time in the test. So we've created a variable. It also has some advanced properties: decimals, minimum, maximum, and next value, which is a subject that we'll dive into in another video. But we've created our output variable, and of course you can create as many variables as you want in a given project. Now, why are variables smart and safe? They're smart because a variable is a number that can be changed with a number of different things within the specific test. So just as a very simple example, we can go in, create a step, we can save the variable, we can then loop that. Let's just say you want to loop 10 times. And then if we show this, say as just a basic number, let's just add this to our dashboard. Then we output the value of the variable in our test. And right now we'll just loop and it'll just keep being 1. But here is the smart thing about variables. Let's say we create another step, and in that we want to add a number to our variable. So now we save a variable, we add 1 to it, and we jump back 10 times. So now we've basically created a test which adds a number to the variable, and it doesn't do anything. But this is the backbone of a lot of tests that are looped, where we want to have different scenarios with outputs, cases, and so on. So let's say we want to test at a given pressure or flow. We can say, okay, this is our set point, our output, and then we can loop through a bunch of set points instead of having to do a manual test with doing it once each time. So how do we actually utilize a value when we have this kind of loop? Let's say that we have, just as an example, we will have a modbus. And in that modbus, we will have a command. Let's just call this set point. Let's call it set point temp. And that will be a write. So if we want to utilize this, we can then go into our equipment, choose a modbus, then set point temp, and then a whole lot of places in save. When we didn't, if we had to manually set the value, we can do that. We can write, we want to have it to 2. But with variables, we can click the downwards arrow, and here we can choose value, or we can choose a variable. So we can actually set that we want our set point temp command to have to send the value of our variable output. And then as you can see here, when we loop through this, our set point temp will change each time. So in that case, our text tests where we actually do measurements and so forth could then be in between. So now we actually made a loop test where we have all of these set points in our test. Now usually when I do tests and we do automation, we will of course have a bunch of different variables for set points, for any number that is changeable during a test. And this can add up to a whole lot of variables. It could also be that we have a PID controller, and then we want to have the coefficients for our P, I, and D coefficients. We want to have them variable, and we can go in and set that. And that happens in our data processing. So for example here, let's say we want to have a PID controller, and we want to have these, tolerance, set point. Again, here we could have a set point. So all of these different properties in our data processing can actually be set by variables. So this is really, really smart. And to do a little bit more advanced test and saves, you need to know about this concept. Now variables can also, I actually use them a lot as different kind of flags. So if we have maybe you want to have a gate or some kind of switch, let's say that we want to have on off in our flag, so it's just a 0 and a 1, and we want to use that within our control. So let's say we want to gate our data, so should it send it or should it just stop it? We can then go in and choose a variable and use that as a flag for it. So variables can be used for a whole lot of things, and I hope this made it a little bit easier to understand the concept of variables. Now the final thing that I want to just show you is that if you want to report the final value of the variables in a test, it's very, very easy. So you go to reporting, you click export, choose variable, and here it just automatically sets the data source for export all our variables, export both the name and the value, and do that to the specific sheet with a start cell of A1. So what I typically do is I give my sheet variables, and then it will just export all of my variables to my report. Now I hope this video was helpful for you to understand the concept of variables. Now I've said it a bunch of times. If you want to learn more, go to our website, incita.com, or I'll just see you in another video.